Have you ever stopped to think that silence might be your greatest weapon? Imagine being in a room full of people. Everyone is talking at the same time, trying to prove their point, competing for attention. Now, imagine that amidst this chaos, one person chooses to remain silent. They observe, they listen, they understand. And when they finally decide to speak, every word carries weight. Nietzsche understood the power of silence. In a world obsessed with loud opinions, he saw the value of those who know how to remain quiet at the right moment. Silence is more than the absence of sound. It is a demonstration of strength, self-control, and intelligence. Today, we are surrounded by an endless flow of information, social media, news, never-ending debates. But what if I told you that true power doesn't lie in speaking more, but in speaking less? Let's dive into Nietzsche's philosophy and discover why silence can be your greatest strength. Nietzsche used to say that there are no facts, only interpretations. This idea sums up one of the deepest concepts in his philosophy: perspectivism. In a world where everyone perceives reality through their own lens, believing in absolute truth is an illusion. Every viewpoint is shaped by experiences, desires, and interests. And what does this have to do with silence? Everything. When you speak less and observe more, you gain a better understanding of the perspectives around you. You don't just hear words, you notice hidden intentions, inconsistencies, and truths that many ignore. Silence becomes a strategy of power. Instead of reacting impulsively, you choose when and how to express yourself. Nietzsche explored this concept in Beyond Good and Evil and on the genealogy of morals. He criticized the idea of universal morality and demonstrated how different groups create their own truths to justify their beliefs. Understanding this helps you realize that not every discussion is worth having. Not every battle needs to be fought. Silence allows you to see reality with greater clarity, and that clarity is the first step toward true strength. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche introduces a character who spends years in complete isolation before returning to society to share his wisdom. What did he learn during that time? That silence is not weakness, but a process of internal strengthening. Now, think about your own life. How many times have you felt the need to give an immediate response? How many times have you regretted speaking without thinking? What if instead you use silence as a strategy? Nietzsche saw silence as a power that few master, the power of absolute control over oneself. Observing before acting, reflecting before reacting, building before exposing. Silence is not submission but intelligence. And now I ask you, do you fear silence, or are you ready to use it to your advantage? Controlling what we say is a direct reflection of how much we control ourselves. Nietzsche viewed self-mastery as an expression of will to power, the inner force that drives us to evolve and become stronger. But have you ever considered that silence is one of the greatest tests of this control? When you remain silent in the face of provocation, you are exercising power over your emotions. When you avoid speaking impulsively, you are choosing strategy over reactivity. The modern world conditions us to speak constantly, as if we need to have an opinion on everything. But the truly strong know that sometimes the best response is silence. Great leaders in history, from emperors to military strategists, use silence as a tool of power. Napoleon Bonaparte, for example, was known for his penetrating gaze and moments of silence that made his opponents uneasy. In Eastern philosophy, samurai masters practice silence not only as a sign of respect, but also as a method of maintaining calm under pressure. Want to test your own self-mastery? Try observing more and speaking less. Beyond being a tool for self-mastery, silence is also a powerful means of influence. In any environment, whether at work, in friendships, or in relationships, those who speak less and listen more hold a strategic advantage. Nietzsche understood that most people talk to fill the void, to be accepted, or to affirm their own importance. But those who master silence convey something much stronger: mystery, confidence, and authority. Think about the most charismatic people you have met. They don't speak excessively. They measure their words, observe before responding, and when they speak, every sentence carries weight. This behavior generates respect and ensures that when they finally speak, others truly listen. In the business world, The most effective leaders are those who know how to listen. A boss who only imposes their ideas without listening quickly loses respect. A leader who uses silence to analyze a situation and speaks only when necessary demonstrates strength and intelligence. The same applies to personal relationships. Those who master silence don't waste energy on pointless arguments, don't justify themselves all the time, and don't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. Well-utilized silence creates magnetism. And in the end, those who know how to remain silent at the right moment always have the last word without needing to say it. What happens when you refuse to react as others expect? When, instead of responding to provocation, you simply smile and remain silent? The truth is that silence disturbs. It disarms. It takes control away from those trying to manipulate you. Nietzsche understood that in a world where everyone wants to impose their opinions, true power lies in not being dragged into the chaos. He said that those who talk too much are often slaves to their own words. Those who know how to be silent, on the other hand, possess unshakable strength. In practice, silence can be your best defense against attacks, gossip, and attempts to destabilize you. Think about the great figures in history, leaders, master strategists, visionaries. They did not waste words. They knew that sometimes the best response is no response. And here is the crucial point. When you choose silence, you are exercising control over yourself. You do not let yourself be driven by anger, the need for approval, or the impulse to justify every action. That is resistance. That is power. But here's a warning. Many people confuse silence with passivity. Silence does not mean accepting everything in silence. It means knowing when and how to express yourself. You don't need to prove anything to anyone all the time. Often your silence will speak louder than any argument. So next time someone tries to throw you off balance, try stay quiet. Watch how it unsettles them, how it forces them to deal with themselves, how it gives you something that few people have, absolute control over your own reactions. If silence can be a powerful weapon, it can also become poison when used incorrectly. Not all silence is a sign of strength. Sometimes it can signify fear, avoidance, or submission. Nietzsche criticized those who remained silent not out of wisdom, but out of cowardice. He saw it as a symptom of resentment, an accumulation of unexpressed frustrations that, over time, transform into silent hatred. Silence born from the fear of taking a stand is not a sign of power but of weakness. Moreover, silence can be destructive in relationships. Ignoring problems, avoiding important conversations, and staying quiet when one should speak can create insurmountable barriers between people. How many conflicts could have been resolved with a simple dialogue? How many emotions were suppressed because someone chose to remain silent at the wrong moment? True strength lies not only in knowing when to be silent, but also in knowing when to speak. Strategic silence is the kind that strengthens, while the silence of fear and omission corrodes. Knowing the difference between the two is essential to turning silence into an ally rather than a prison. The greatest thinkers in history understood that silence is not emptiness, but a space for inner construction. Nietzsche, Socrates, Schopenhauer, and many other philosophers had in common an appreciation for silence as a tool of wisdom. Socrates, for example, used silence as part of his famous maieutic method. He would ask questions and let his interlocutors entangle themselves in their own contradictions. Instead of immediately refuting them, he listened, reflected, and led others to recognize their own inconsistencies. Schopenhauer, an influential figure in Nietzsche's philosophy, also saw silence as a trait of true intelligence. He said, "Talent is expressed in words, but genius is revealed in silence." For him, superior minds did not need to speak excessively to prove their value. Their presence and actions already spoke for themselves. Nietzsche, in turn, believed that silence was a reflection of the strength of a free spirit. While most people get lost in empty speeches and fleeting opinions, those who cultivate silence develop a deeper understanding of the world. Speaking less and observing more allows us to see beyond the surface and perceive nuances that most ignore. History shows us that those who mastered the art of remaining silent at the right moments were the ones who truly influenced the world. True power does not lie in those who talk endlessly, but in those whose presence, even in silence, is felt. However, in today's hyper-connected society, the excess of information has become deafening noise. Social media, 24-hour news cycles, all of this creates a constant stream of opinions that often replace genuine reflection. But have you ever stopped to consider the impact this has on your ability to think critically? Nietzsche criticized the herd mentality, the tendency of the masses to follow pre-packaged ideas without questioning them. And this phenomenon is stronger than ever. When we are surrounded by external voices all the time, it becomes difficult to hear our own. Silence becomes essential to break free from this cycle and reclaim our intellectual autonomy. Think about it. How often do you truly stop to reflect deeply on something without the influence of others' opinions? Without the pressure to pick a side? The constant noise of society pushes us toward quick and simplistic answers, killing our ability to analyze with depth. Silence, on the other hand, is a space for internal construction. It is within silence that we are able to see our own ideas, question our beliefs, and develop opinions that are truly our own. This is why those who know how to distance themselves from the noise and cultivate moments of silence gain an immense advantage: the ability to think independently. Now that we understand the power of silence, the question is, how can we apply it in everyday life? How do we transform this tool into a differentiating factor in both personal and professional settings? First, practice active listening. Instead of rushing to respond, learn to truly listen. When you listen without the anxiety of replying, you notice details that others ignore. This strengthens your relationships, improves your negotiation skills, and increases your emotional intelligence. Second, control your impulses. Silence is not just the absence of speech, but the mastery of knowing when to speak. Before reacting to provocation or engaging in a useless discussion, ask yourself, is this conversation really worth it? Many times, silence is the best response to preserve your energy and avoid unnecessary stress. Third, use strategic pauses. People who talk non-stop lose their impact, but those who know when to pause and create moments of silence between words generate more authority and attention. This applies to presentations, meetings, and even casual conversations. Finally, cultivate moments of silence with yourself. Modern society encourages us to fill every second with information and distractions, but mental clarity only arises when we allow space for emptiness. Set aside time to reflect, without music, without your phone, without interruptions. It is in silence that your mind organizes itself and your ideas gain power. At the end of the day, those who master silence not only speak better, but live better. If there's one takeaway from all of this, it is this: use silence to hear more than just words. Listen to the unspoken. Perceive what is not being said. And above all, find in silence the most important voice of all, your own. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to watch the next one appearing on your screen. See you there.